I, Richard Nixon, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
Inauguration Day, 1973. For Richard Nixon, perhaps the pinnacle moment of his long political career. On Election Day, voters returned Nixon to office with one of the most overwhelming majorities in presidential history, all but completely ignoring a story that quietly broke just 6 months earlier. The Watergate break-in failed to make headlines in the summer and fall of 1972. It was the race for the White House that dominated the public eye.
I again proudly accept your nomination for President of the United States.
Miami Beach, Florida, 1972. Richard Nixon accepts the Republican Party's nomination for president. It would be his third and final try. As for the Democrats, they pinned their presidential hopes on South Dakota Senator George McGovern. McGovern, a decorated World War II veteran, was a vocal critic of the Vietnam War. He had strong grassroots following and centered his campaign on bringing troops home from Vietnam.
What did either we or the rest of the world gain by the killing of another 20,000 young Americans these past 4 years?
But unseating President Nixon would be no easy task. By the fall of 1972, Nixon was fresh off highly publicized and televised trips to China and Russia. He was seen as a man of experience, a man in charge. McGovern, on the other hand, was viewed as more of a liberal outsider. In the turning point of the 1972 campaign, McGovern abandoned his pick for vice president. He dropped Thomas Eagleton from the ticket after reports surfaced that Eagleton had undergone shock therapy for depression. The move was seen as indecisive, and voters could not have an indecisive president in the White House. Come election night, Nixon overwhelmed his opponent, taking every state in the nation except for Massachusetts.
And now that the election is over, it is time to get on with the great tasks that lie before us. I've tried to conduct myself in this campaign in a way that would not divide our country, not divide it regionally or by parties or in any other way. Because I very firmly believe that what unites America today is infinitely more important than those things which divide us.
But Nixon's hope that night went unrealized. The outcome was not a total victory for the Republican Party, as Democrats maintained control of both the House and Senate, and in the years to come, more trouble for Nixon.
Good evening. The biggest White House scandal in a century, the Watergate scandal, broke wide open today.
As the Watergate scandal began to unfold, more and more signs pointed to President Nixon's involvement. And on August 8, 1974, before a televised audience of millions, Nixon addressed the nation as president for the final time.
To continue to fight through the months ahead for my personal vindication would almost totally absorb the time and attention of both the President and the Congress in a period when our entire focus should be on the great issues of peace abroad and prosperity without inflation at home. Therefore, I shall resign the presidency effective at noon tomorrow.
It was the Watergate break-in in 1972 and the subsequent follow-up that ultimately sank Nixon's presidency and forced him to resign, the only U.S. president ever to do so. For more on the election of 1972, including full speeches and parts of NBC's broadcast from election night, browse through the playlist to the left. Also, be sure to check back soon for another political turning point, America's fundamental shift to the right with the 1980 election. I'm Tom Brokaw.